Hey there.
He goes,
So,
well,
Hello.
I'm on mute.
You're
What's
not.
up, everyone? No, I'm not.
Hello.
Ben is frozen. Is that just me? Or is it just
yeah, I think
nice?
it's just you because Ben's appearing fine for me.
I'm dancing.
Awesome. That's okay, because my talking is not important. Everyone wants to hear what Ben has to say today.
I want to hear what you have to say, Ben.
Well, people, it's been quite the year. We actually didn't do
We
like a
just,
1 year anniversary town hall.
yeah.
I
Jay,
guess
somebody's
we were
asking you
so
why you're
busy
not
building.
walking today.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's because I didn't start the treadmill, but I will. Should we guess? Should we do like a
Someone
gene
asked
tip for the person that
where
guesses
my hat
again?
is.
How many
I haven't
steps I
worn
do?
my hat in the last three like town halls
Yeah, I haven't
because
seen
of
your
what
hat
people.
in some time.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen it in like our regular calls. I feel like you've been just doing your hair. Albert has nice hair, people, under the hat. I don't. I
Yeah,
need a
because people
haircut.
thought I was bald and I had to prove them wrong. So here I am. Great camera, by the way, Jay. You're very sharp. I need to upgrade.
All right.
Jay, are you having connectivity issues?
Am I frozen again? No,
No.
You
I
were for a
started
little bit.
walking and then I was getting, I don't know. I guess so. Um,
Okay.
is it back now? Everything seems pretty
Yep,
smooth
yep.
to me.
Yeah, I think you're pretty smooth.
Sweet. Crazy. So it's been a year. Obviously, crafting yesterday, a lot happening. There's been no shortage of fun releases and things going out. I am officially walking now. This is probably my first steps of the day, so we'll just guess how many steps we get by the end of this town hall. If I walk for an hour, I should be able to get, I don't know, at least 8,000 steps, 6,000 steps. I guess we'll see. Okay, so we're gonna kick it off with a year in review. Albert will give some updates on some fun stuff we've been doing. Of course, wider industry and state of the game and things going on there. Crafting launch, of course, and the mechanics and stuff that we've seen, even just in the last, I don't know how many hours it's been since crafting's been out, 12 plus 6, 18 hours.
Less than 12 hours, less than
Um,
24 hours.
less than 24 hours. We'll do a bit of a roadmap update at the end, and of course, Ben's state of the game, which probably will be the bulk of the next hour, followed by a lot of questions. Thank you, everyone, for coming in with questions. I will say a lot of your questions are the same things that we were planning on talking about. So hopefully, as we're talking, keep piling in more questions, and we'll get deeper. Cool. So with that, year in review. It's been a year. Our first tweet ever announcing Genopets was August. We decided to build this movement-based RPG game with a pet that would grow and evolve as you took care of yourself. October, I think, was our initial seed round. Gene, of course, launched in November. Our first mini game, the Genesis Genopet Eggs. Shout out to the egg holders or those that participated in the egg drop last December. That is actually coming up on just almost exactly a year. The treasure hunt first edition, obviously February. Genesis Habitats April. In May, we launched Gene Staking. Key Token was in June. Private beta mobile with earning and the first view in Habitat Management was August. Recipe Hunt, which just feels like was yesterday, was in October. Legendary first ever crafting in November, and then of course actual crafting yesterday. For those not following along or are new to the program, we have been building and shipping and doing lots of fun things, both of course in the game, but also just on the server in general together. There's been no shortage of action over the past year. Suffice that to say, all of which could not be done with each and every one of you, those here today, those who have been here from a year ago. It's been a ride. I can't say it enough. Certainly, seeing us on the server, but just in the community in general, so much support across a lot of what we do, and of course also sharing a lot of concerns that we have for the wider industry, the state of the game, where we're going, when crafting. No one can say when crafting anymore. I guess it's all going to shift to when battle, and we'll go from there. Good news is we have some updates on that front that I'm sure you'll all be excited for. But I guess in the big picture, the major thing here is this is crafting's launch especially certainly is a big major milestone in our overall roadmap, the vision we set out with just over a year ago, how we're going to build a sustainable Web3 game where players will earn in the right ways, creating, trading, and sharing in everything the Genopets will need to grow, evolve, and upgrade over time. The opportunity we've really seen has always been to create alignment between the Web2 and Web3 game styles. Players in the mobile game, walking, banking steps, leveling up. Albert is cracking up because he's probably reading something in the chat that I'm not seeing at the moment. But
no, I'm
into
smiling because they're
second.
asking why when the three of us are also going to get a treadmill to compete with you.
I'm super down for that. If you guys want, I've been telling everyone on the team. There are a couple people on the team now that have treadmills, but actually probably it's just me and Logan. But anyway, yeah, we should all. Everyone needs to get their steps in. Ben and Albert both like to take actual walks outside or jogs. I think that's more your style. I don't know, Kevin. I feel like you just walk all the time because
I just pace inside the office.
New York. But yeah, that was always kind of been our vision, right? To build a game that was a fun game, supported by an economy that is a Web3 game. That's ultimately why crafting and a lot of what we've been focused on over the past year, building this player-created economy, ultimately sitting on top of a marketplace game. The next big unlock will be connecting the two, bridging the mobile app more into the overall players of the economy. And that's where we're headed next. Of course, none of this happens, and the Web3 industry, et cetera, is built upon, especially us, built upon this premise that the whole world that we're putting together here, has been founded in this community. And of course, along with the world, the crypto world, or I guess the world as a whole, have been going through a lot of really difficult times, challenging economic times, FTX meltdown, all the things I'm sure everybody's heard about and has been worried about to some extent. We did address it in Discord, but we wanted to just touch on it briefly here at the beginning of the call too. I think Albert, if you have further thoughts on that and just to give the community an update.
I'll just give a pure like a quick overview. Obviously, you guys know about the FTX fallout. We've stated categorically, in Discord and on Twitter that we have not been affected, but we haven't said it on one of the town halls. So we want to say it one more time that none of our treasury was on FTX. So we are okay. However, as you guys probably know, Gene was heavily traded on FTX. It was our main exchange. So to say we're completely unaffected is not completely accurate either, because Gene token now no longer has that liquidity that we have on FTX. We are working to see if we can get on other exchanges, but in the bear market, things will move very slowly. Also, it also explains why that 3 months prior to their collapse, there has been very strange activity with the Gene token on FTX. And now we know from a lot of the other investigations that there was poor accounting with how they did the tokens, and in some cases there's some foul play there. So I don't want to dive into that part too much, but it seems pretty obvious at this point that there was some issues on FTX. So that part we were affected by as well. But moving forward, it seems pretty obvious now that the hacker hacked most of the Ethereum stuff. All the Solana wallet move seems to be internal at this point. So all of that Gene token that used to be on FTX is now locked in bankruptcy proceedings. So we don't know what's going to happen to that yet. So we're keeping a close eye. Now, in response to this, and also due to market conditions, the majority of our lead investors agreed to extend the vesting period for another year. So if you remember before, we unlock invest over 1 year for the investors. Now it vests over 24 months. That's 2 years. And that started on November 18th. And as an act of solidarity, founders, so we also started vesting November 18th, but it used to be over 3 years. Now it's going to be over 4 years. So our tokens will be vesting slowly over the next 4 years. And this update will be reflected in the white paper, and we'll have a new graphic with a new token emission schedule as well. So that's my update on that part. Back to you, Jay.
Yeah, thanks, Albert. I think, and this one originally came from Ben, but I think that the FTX fallout, along with Celsius, Luna, kind of everything that's happened over the past year, certainly is a Darwinian moment for crypto. People financially impacted, overall consumer confidence in the space. Certainly, mainstream headlines starkly different a year ago when the excitement around NFTs and crypto was everyone needs to ape in. But I think ultimately it's a turning point for the space. You're no longer just surviving on speculation and Ponzi-nomics. Hype and promises of future utility isn't how you attract users. Frankly, if you don't have solid fundamentals, projects will probably start dying out. It's not the best thing for the overall space, certainly not something we're excited for, but in an environment like this, really the only thing we can do, the only thing any project should be doing is doubling down on community, building, showing progress, openly growing, maintaining confidence with your closest users. Of course, today, as I started out with in the call, hopefully you see that we've been building progress. We've been moving forward through the roadmap. We hear your voice. We hear your voice, your concerns. We want your feedback on the server. There's always things we know we can do to improve and grow. It's been the founding principle for us, something we've internalized in our founding DNA. We've been in the Web3 space for 4+ years each. Building in the open with the community along for the ride is nothing new for us. So yeah, that's kind of where we stand, and I think thanks Albert for the update there. Certainly, extending our own best as an act of solidarity with the community and the investors, I think is something we didn't take lightly. But yeah, with that said, I guess our next major point here to cover is crafting. Mechanics, some game design.
Actually, can I have a moment to talk about creative?
I totally forgot.
Yeah. So
I skipped.
If you have a Genesis so big announcement here. If you have a Genesis Genopet, check your wallet. We have just sent out a mystery box to all Genesis Genopet holders. We sent it out.
Genesis airdrop?
Yep. We built it using Magic Eden's open creator protocol. Wanted to play around with the soulbound aspect of it. So it's tradable for the next 10 days. And after that, it will become soulbound. And then after that, in the new year, we will have it as an ingredient in the crafting program, basically allowing the opening of the mystery box. Now, the content of which will be announced later. So that's going on. And I wanted to also remark on the fact that it's been quite a journey with doing SFTs, and after the FTX collapse, we had to relaunch the trading behind SFTs, and there's still some bugs here and there, but in general, it's been working fairly smoothly. So if you have any problems, just let us know. We'll work with Magic Eden on that. Now, okay, all right. So I think it's Kevin's turn to talk about crafting.
Well, what's there to say that hasn't already been said about crafting? No, on a serious note, obviously as a team, we're just so excited to get this release over the finish line. In some ways, it's the end of a long development and roadmap chapter for us. And also just from a technical perspective, I think an achievement that we're just especially proud of, to be able to build a platform that's a game, but also setting the foundation for the ability to play to mint within our game for the long haul. Just some, it's been less than a day now since it was formally released. We're still pulling together the total numbers of, how much has been crafted and what types of items. I mean, with over 200 distinct items, it's a bit of a challenge really to track down every single one. But early signs pretty good. Over 1,800 reagents crafted since launch. I think since that recipe, a couple of those recipes were readily available. Maybe people were starting to test and experiment with those. And I see already several hundred cosmetic crystals, mostly absinthe and looms, have already been brought into existence. So we're really excited to just see people engaging with the product, with the release, and having some fun with it. Obviously, we've lowered the recipe token requirements for the time being so that more people can have fun with it. But really, this is just the beginning, and just very pleased to get this over the finish line. I'll give a quick note on variants because I've seen a lot of different questions and points being raised on the Discord and even here regarding variants. And I do think there's probably a more robust update, at least as far as the white paper is concerned, regarding variants to try to address some of these. But I'll try to take some at the top, or at least clear some of the confusion now. Variants were really introduced from a design perspective to add the potential for variety within the context of an established type family baseline. So you take an augment, for example, a dactyl wing augment. The augment is the type. The dactyl wing is its family. And within that, you can see that it's a dactyl style and it's a wing part. But then, a dactyl wing that was released as part of the treasure hunt had the alkali variant. That variant was meant to show that it's something in addition or alternative to the standard version of that particular item. In this case, it's alkali because the only way you could ever get this particular type of dactyl wing was by successfully completing the treasure hunt and then being able to mint it. Now, that kind of applies, that makes a lot of sense for event-only stuff or special promotional items like the alkali variant. But I'm sure some of you have noticed that the augments that are being released now with the launch of crafting include some enhanced and superior variants as well. I would say specifically for enhanced and superior, this will become a lot clearer as we release like the battle rules. But essentially, enhanced and superior are meant to be simple introductory variants that are that show how we can start to create a little bit of variety within an existing class. So if you have a Pipelia wing, or if you have a particular wing augment, maybe we can use the dactyl wing augment as an example once again. If you just had a dactyl wing augment and it was a rare, that means that it has a power level and modifiers within the rare class range, which is really the upper range. It's much more powerful than a common, relatively speaking. But within each class, we wanted to create the ability to have a little bit of variety. So if you get that rare dactyl augment without any variant, or it's a blank field, you can consider that the standard version of the item. And we've sprinkled in some enhanced versions, which are a little bit better. And by better, I mean strictly the battle values are marginally higher. And then the superior is sort of the best standard version of that class, of that augment. In the future, variants will be used, I think, much more creatively. Once we've established this sort of baseline, you can have variants that are the complete opposite, or you can have variants that are, like a twisted dactyl wing that does something completely different or has a different sort of effect. This is the kind of creative freedom and design freedom we wanted to lay the groundwork for now. But today, I wouldn't worry too much about enhanced and superior. They're meant to be just simple gradations of quality within an existing class. So have fun with it, and we'll try to get a lot more of this information buttoned up and bundled into the white paper so that people can sink their teeth into it. Just quickly on pricing and just how it relates to the market realities of our game. Essentially, gene and key token requirements for crafting will need to be periodically reviewed and updated. There's just no way around this. They're real tokens. They have financial value outside of this system. And so we always need to be cognizant of where the asset prices are going and whether we think something is a bit underpriced or overpriced with regards to the actual economic impact. So I think we've made this clear, establishing that the token requirements for the current recipes are likely or will definitely be reviewed in the new year. Could change, but mostly it's about reviewing it and making sure it still works for us. That said, the ingredient requirements, essentially the recipes themselves, like how many crystals you need, or if you need a reagent to make an augment, these will not be treated the same way as gene and key token requirements, meaning they may be subject to change, but we really don't want to change them. And if they have to be changed, it will be for game balancing and player experience reasons rather than economic concerns. And that's why we came out early with the crystal requirements being what they are, because those are what's going to be locked in, while the key and gene token requirements will be regularly reviewed. And just I'll end on what's coming next, fast follow items for crafting. So we want to show the class of the item in pending items. We want to allow landlords to claim items on behalf of alchemists. Some UI and UX improvements, including a table view in the recipe book, batch actions, and then I think we're also very close to finalizing what the reroll and expedite features are going to look like, meaning you'll be able to pay to have another shot when it comes to non-deterministic recipes, so where there's an element of chance. And then we're also looking into how we can provide a convenient feature around shortening the time to craft so that you can claim your item faster.
Yep. So piggybacking off of that, so those two features are very next to follow on our crafting roadmap. One of them is called Expedite, and the other is called Reroll. These will be the core features that bring utility to the gene token. And then for me and for our team onwards, the next big things are just rolling out new features to the mobile app. So there's a lot of things coming there that I'll let Ben talk about.
Hi. Is that my cue? Should I start talking about stuff now?
I think we can actually start the town hall now.
Okay, let's start the town hall.
Everyone's like, we knew all those things already.
Eunice, whenever you are ready to show the slides. All right, you guys are just blowing up this chat. PvP, battle, talk to me about battle, talk. If you guys want to hear about battle, you guys came to the right place today. So if you're not ready, get ready. Sit down and buckle up. But before I dive into all that stuff, I want to say I have many, many exciting things to share with you today. Honestly, I really can't wait. We've been working hard on many things, as you've gotten a little bit of a taste of. We've been working on treasure hunts and crafting and pet expressions and petting improvements and inventory and banking rewards and habitat improvements and crafting. And then all the augment art, getting them to rotate and look really cool in the marketplace, and defining all the values for all the augments and the items and the feeding and the fetching and the Genodex and sharing and referrals and a bunch of other stuff that I don't have time to really name right now. But then, of course, there's also battle, which I'm going to talk a lot about today. But first things first, I have something really important to say, which is that I miss you. I really miss you all. I'm really sorry for being quiet on Discord. I know it's been a while since I have surfaced. I haven't been really hanging out on Discord. Dragonville, this is your official hi, I miss you. I've just been really busy. Not an excuse, but I just wanted to let you know that you guys are still in my heart, and I think about you guys all the time. I've just been really busy. And I'm going to show you what I've been busy with. Aside from me missing you and me being fine, thanks for asking, I did just want to make sure you guys Also know that Chun Chun is doing very, very well. In case you were wondering, still the same. He's still at level 2. We haven't had much time to grow him since we last spoke. For those of you who don't know who Chun Chun Maru is, Chun Chun is basically our little community pet that we gave birth to in DNA. We created him together. Well, I don't know if he's a him or not, or it's an it. I'm not really quite sure. But we will be. I'm bringing Chun Chun in today because I'll be talking to you guys about battle, among other things, and I felt that Chun Chun might be very useful as a little assistant in demonstrating the different features and helping you guys understand some of the things we're cooking on that side. So, without further ado, let's talk about battle. But I really need you guys to pay close attention to this slide. There's a big word here. It says disclaimer. The disclaimer here is that everything you're about to hear, like everything that I share in State of the Game, is subject to change, balancing, and phase releases. Because we are in planning, and creating something like battle is extremely complex, and particularly making sure it doesn't get unbalanced and too much favoring people who have a lot of money. We're not trying to make a pay to win game, but we also want to make it really cool and reward players that are working really hard to do really well. And we want to integrate a lot of things. There's a lot of vision here. And so Albert's job, Jay's job, Kevin's job is all to make sure that my crazy ideas don't blow up the world. So I'm going to share with you my crazy ideas today, and a lot of the ideas that we've been testing. We are now currently in, I think it's like version 9 of battle. We've been doing a lot of play testing. We've been trying out a lot of crazy ideas, and we've arrived at a point of stability that we are now going into much deeper dives and experimentation internally. So I'm happy to share these with you now. And so the core fundamentals of what you're about to see will likely remain. The spirit of this battle will remain, but just know that the details are subject to change. With that said, promise me that you're not going to forget what I just said. Okay. I'm going to explain some of the principles that have guided our approach towards battle. Number 1, make it easy, but not simple. What that means is we want to create a game that's easy to learn, but difficult to master. It's intuitive to pick up with really basic choices, but out of those basic choices that we present to you, because of the nature of those choices and the ramifications of those choices, we can allow for an emergent complexity. The games that we were really inspired by, which I'll talk about in a bit, we don't want to make this game like where you have to read like 30 pages of a white paper to be able to really understand and maximize. You just learn by playing, and so we have to keep it simple up front. The second thing is mind and body connection. So obviously we care about fitness, and we also want to exercise the mind. So like what we promised since the white paper, the first white paper ever, is how we're going to work in thinking and strategy along with movement of the body. Well, we were able to take advantage of the platform that we're on, which is the phone. And so it's got this really neat thing in it called a gyroscope. So we can do some pretty cool things with that, that for some reason other games haven't really dove really deep into. And so we'd like to take a shot at that. And last but not least is everything matters. And this is a really important principle for me thinking about this. Is like Genopets is a very unprecedented game. We are a step tracking game, but we're also a nurture game, Tamagotchi style. And we've got crafting, and we've got augmentation, and an open world RPG, and then battle. And it's like, it's a lot of things. And if we don't do this right, it just feels like a bunch of random things kind of getting smashed together. And it doesn't really, it doesn't work together unless you really have a reason for all the things to exist. So it's important that battle comes all together with everything and ties things together. You can think of everything that we've been releasing up until now, from the step banking to the banking rewards, which you're going to see, to the food and the toys and the augmentation. All these features come together, and battle is the capstone. It's the reason for all these things to exist, and it's what gives value to everything. So with that in mind, We're ready to dive in. Let's talk about the format of the game. So what is Genopets Battle? It is a turn-based, fast-paced, strategic reaction game. What that means is it's a turn-based, so it's I go and then you go, and then I go and then you go. Very simple. Fast-paced, we want to keep it so that it's high intensity or really interesting and exciting, but I don't want to have to sit there for 20 minutes to finish a whole round. I got a life to live. I got miles to run. So they're going to be quick, fun, and then from there, we want to make sure that we are able to bring in strategic elements. So you do like short twitch, long twitch in terms of like the mind. There is strategy behind it, but the strategy is all contained within this short format. And we want to introduce this to spice things up a bit and give you agency. You want to involve a bit of reaction time. So you're thinking really short term and also long term, and you can bring that all in together in one format. So that's the format of the game. So diving further in, next slide. Let's look at stats. So if we're going to have a battle game, then your Genopet is going to have some stats. So there's some basic stats going on here. None of this should be too shocking to anybody. Obviously, you've got hit points, but you've got attack and defense, and you have speed. These are the primaries. But we also have these secondary stats currently in the design, accuracy, agility, and stability. So what is HP? Obviously, that's how many hit points you have. No need to explain too much there. Attack is a value that is going to determine how much damage you can deal. It's a factor of how much damage you can deal. Defense is a factor of how much damage you can mitigate. Speed is a value that determines who goes first, among some other things, which I'll get to in a bit, as it involves sort of the defense aspect of the game. And then secondary attributes are things that are affecting those as well, but these are things that are subject to status effects, things like being poisoned and so on and so forth, that can reduce the effect that things have on you. Sorry, these are the areas of your performance that can be affected by your opponent's decisions and items and so forth that they might use. So here for visual reference is Junjun at level 11. These might be an example of what these stats might look like for a pet of this stage. So moving on. So you've got this Genopet, it's got HP, it's got attack and defense. So how do I attack? All right, so a lot of you guys, since crafting just came out, some of you I've seen have been crafting augments and getting really excited about those. But what are augments? What are they really for other than just neat things you can stick on your Mr. Potato Head Genopet? Well, the key function of an augment is that they bring moves for your Genopet. So the attack moves that your Genopet will have is determined by the augments that are equipped on that Genopet. So here, looking at Chunchun, you can see that from the ear and the tail and the body and the head are different moves. And so I'm going to break this down a little bit. So looking at the head here, we have a heavy attack called Ram. Of course, none of this is final in terms of the naming and whatnot. This is here to help you understand the concept of how these moves will work. And then we have a quick attack called Tackle, and a medium attack called Whiplash, and a hack attack called Void. And you'll also notice that each of these have a cooldown. So a quick attack, you'll see, has a cooldown of 1, but has a power of 40. So there's attacks that do less damage, but then you can do them more often. Ram has 90 power, which is a lot more powerful, but you can only use it once, and then you have to wait 3 rounds before you can use it again. And so this opens up some questions for you as a player. Well, do I want to start off the battle with a big heavy attack, but I can't really use it for another 3 moves? So I might need it later on, or I can do some regular quick attacks and just kind of like hit them a little bit and then kind of see what my opponent is going to do and react to that, and then save my kind of big hits towards the end, try to get that finishing blow. Or do I want to use a hack and do something like, for example, paralyze my opponent and then do a heavy attack or something where they can't react? So there's a bit of strategy around determining and choosing what moves you want to use depending on the strategy that you choose to go with for your play style. And then you have your good old classic critical hits. So there's a chance that you can land a critical and do some extra damage. And the cooldowns, like I just explained, are moves that number of rounds where moves will cool down. So that's a basic overview of how attack works. So we're in a battle, and me and you were fighting, and I attack, and then now what do? You defend the attack. So going on to the next slide. What does defense look like? So currently we're playing with these ideas of a block or a dodge. Now, so it's like, do you want to take your chances or do you want to test your skill? So dodge, as a boxer for a long time, there's two things you can do, right? You can either slip the attack or you can parry an attack. And so if you slip an attack, you can just bypass that punch altogether. So there's a lot of learnings here from actual fighting. So if you dodge, you can take a chance. It's like a roll, and that would be based on something like your agility stat. And you would take no damage, but you also don't charge up your power move, which I will get to. Or you can choose to block, and you can rely on your skill and take some damage, maybe if you mess up on your block, but you also then can charge up your power move. So what is this blocking mechanism? What is that about? Eunice, let's go to the next slide real quick so we can show them what's happening. So I'll explain what you're seeing there in that GIF is that, like I was saying earlier, we want to use the mind and the body. And so we've got this gyroscope thing. So in order to block, you will play this game where you will have to tilt the phone down, or you'll get a prompt that tells you tilt. You have to tilt the phone down, or tilt the phone up, or tilt it right or left, or rotate right and left. And you have to react to these in relatively quick succession. And so, depending on, now you can see how maybe your agility and your speed is important, because if your speed is higher, maybe you get a little more time to pull off those moves. And you can start thinking about how you would want to build your character in a way. Maybe you want to be really good at blocking, then maybe you can get a lot more of these power moves stacked up and so forth. So we can go back a slide now, Eunice. And so what you're seeing here in our internal dev prototype is we're testing the ability to use the gyroscope and how well it's going to respond. And I'm happy to report it responds quite well in the devices that we've been testing. And so this is how we do our internal testing. We'll play a move and it's like, oh, it's your turn to block. And we have to play this little game, tilt the phone. And so that's what we've been doing here. So that is how defense might work. Moving on to the next slide. And cool. And so we've got our stats, we've got our attacks, we've got our defenses. And so with that, it's relatively basic, right? We have like one little area where you have a bit of agency, where it's like, okay, I can play these block moves. But generally, in a relatively evenly matched fight, I have 500 HP, you have 500 HP, but I went first, and all our attacks kind of do similar damage. It naturally, what happens if we're at the same skill level, whoever goes first will just tend to have a little bit of an advantage, right? Because I got to do some damage first. And so what are some ways that we would fight that progression in a perfectly even matched fight to give whoever goes second an even chance? How do we mix it up a little bit? How do we give you some extra tools to really gain an advantage? Or if you already did go first, maintain your advantage, right? So this is where the strategy comes in. So do you want to play a game where you get a really big advantage over your opponent first, or do you want to bait them into a situation where they think they're really ahead and then boom, you come back really hard? A lot of opportunities here. And so there's 4 domains in which this can happen. Now, bear in mind, like I said, this needs to be easy, but not simple. And so we're not going to necessarily throw all of this at you all at once. There's a reason we have 78 levels of evolution or in your pet. So these will be introduced over time, or maybe all at once. Well, I don't know yet. But let me go through what these are. So I've been talking about power move a lot. What does that mean? So we're playing with this concept where if you block, let's say you block 4 times in a row, now you have built up, just like if anyone's played Tekken or anything like that, your power meter is now full. With your power meter full, you can now use your power move. And that's specific to your Genopet. Your body type will provide that power move. And that power move does a lot of damage and can't be blocked or dodged. So that's kind of your big push where you can kind of even things out. It's a a payback. You've been taking hits for a long time. You've been blocking. Now, boom, here's a big one back for you. And now we've evened it out, and maybe I'm even ahead a little bit. So that's one way that you can build strategy around. Like, do I want to have a character that's really strong at that power move, or gets that power move quick? And then going back to the left over there is loadout, right? So this concept of loadout, there are, based on the augments and the move sets and whatnot, there's a lot of, and the dynamics of the Genopet stats, there can be quite a lot of approaches to your strategy, like I've been alluding to quite a lot here. And so Brawler, like, am I someone who wants to create a pet that has really heavy attacks and just like buff out all my augments so that my HP is really high? That makes me more of a tank, more of a brawler. Or do I want to really focus on building out my Genopet in a way where it's really good on the hacker side of it, where I can do all kinds of cool status effects on them, kind of weaken them out, lower their defense, and then go in for an attack? Or do I want to be really evasive and agile and make it really hard for me to be hit, and then just keep hitting them whenever they're unable to hit me back? So are you going to brawler, a hacker, or a ninja? Of course, these are just terms that I'm loosely using here as a description for possible playstyles. With the modularity of the augments, I don't know what kind of playstyles you guys are going to come up with. But there could be many more, and you might discover some that other players never have. In fact, I'm hoping that you do, and really find a unique way to put your pet together to fit your way of playing. And then, of course, I'll go items. I'm saving the funnest one for last. So items, basic items, of course, things like HP potions, but also maybe you'll use a potion that can reflect an attack. Someone attacks you, and you just say, nope, you take that damage back, right? So there's many ways that you can use an item to mix things up a little bit. So then you start strategizing about what kind of items you might want to play with. And genotype poker, I'm just calling it that for lack of a better term, but there's a reason why we have these genotype crystals. And so the idea here is that you can use you can apply a genotype crystal to your Genopet in battle. And you start off in the battle, both sides are neutral. And from there, let's say I'm really falling behind. I need to do some damage. And so, but I've got to fire a genotype crystal, genotype crystal in my pocket. So you know what? I'm going to use it. Now I'm a fire type, fire genotype. And now all my moves are going to do extra damage to a neutral type. And so I've got an advantage now. I'm taking less damage from them. I'm doing more damage to them. But your opponent also can have a genotype crystal, and maybe they decide to play a water crystal. Now they do extra damage to you because water beats fire. And now you are at a disadvantage. So maybe you might want to switch, and it becomes this little it's a game within the game of like a rock, paper, scissors kind of situation where water beats fire, fire beats metal, metal beats wood, wood beats wood, and so wood beats earth, and so forth. And this allows you, but you're not going to have 5 crystals you can play with. You'll have less than 5 crystals. So you don't know what crystals your opponent has. Your opponent doesn't know what crystals you have. There's a lot of fun stuff that can happen there for you. So these are the areas of strategy that we are playing with, that we're going to experiment with. And again, all throughout this process, we're looking at stripping out anything that's unnecessary and making sure that what is there is really impactful and really adds dynamic decision-making and strategy to the game, while not taking away your enjoyment by overcomplicating things and making you feel like you have to study to play the game. So that is attack, defense, stats, and strategization. And from there, the last but not least is the concept of integration. Moving on to the next slide. So like I was saying at the beginning is, okay, battle's cool and all, but why do I need to bank my steps then? Why do I want to feed or pet or play fetch with my pet? What's the point of the whole Tamagotchi game if there's this whole battle game? Why is this even in the same app? And whether over time this is one integrated experience. And one of the things that I really love about the feeding and the pet aspect of it is that, you know, you're really building a relationship with your pet, and that should mean something. That should count for something, particularly because battle is the primary means for you to get ahead and create value for your Genopet. You know, ultimately to fulfill the Web3 promise, but also not detract from the Web2 aspect of it. So, you know, if you feed your pet and take really good care of it, maybe that gives you something. It gives you a higher bond with your pet that can make it have a higher chance of a critical hit. And so that incentivizes you to take care of your pet and be good to it, because if you take care of your pet, it takes care of you in battle. So that is the foundation and the current model that we're working with into a hypothesis of battle. We're going to continue to play test so that eventually, next slide, we can move on to the vision. Oh, sorry. Actually, so what are we doing all this for? You blew all these battles. Well, what do you win? Well, you get XP and you get energy. And so if you get energy, what can you do with that? Well, yeah, you can use that to reinvest in your pet and enhance it, make it better, level up, and do all these things. Battle is a zero-sum game. So you go in and you fight your opponent. One of you gets the energy, but you both wager it. But who gets to take it? And then what are you going to do with that? You can choose to convert that to key, or reinvest that in your pet, or use that to craft and do all the things. But it's a very strong way for you to increase your resources and your playable options in the game. So from here, okay, so I just want to quickly give you, yeah, go ahead, next slide. I'll try to wrap this up as I know you guys, we've been here for a little while. So just with all of that I just shared with you, I just want to give you a little glimpse of what kind of goes into the process of coming up with these ideas and testing all of them out. And it involves a lot of spreadsheets. And so, you know, go to the next slide. So we have like a, next slide, please. Let's just rapid fire these. You know, we've got our, here's like a little glimpse of our internal playtest spreadsheets, and that we have our ranges, and then we have to build in charts and all of that. It's okay, Eunice, my dramatic slideshow there. But I want to give you guys a glimpse of the amount of math, and really a shout out to Kevin, shout out to our game designers to really, you know, take these crazy ideas and turn them into math that's necessary. It's a lot of work and rework and rebalancing to get us there. So kind of show why
Ben, you just love my design skills because you always beat me in all the play tests.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I beat Albert in the playtest. I'm just going to put it out there to the community right now.
He did. Yeah, he did. So Ben, did you want to talk about what's coming next, which is fetch, feed, and banking rewards?
Yep,
I think you have some videos to show.
Oh,
all right.
Yes, I do. So eventually, the whole point of this is that we're building the foundations for PvE. The vision ultimately is that we'd be able to move towards PvE. Hopefully, you know, someday. This is not in the immediate, but you know, opening the door for multiplayer battles and tournaments and healing and all kinds of other fun stuff. You can ask me about that in Discord if you want to know what I'm talking about. So there's also then, so that's battle. As far as what I can really talk about right now. Stay tuned for more of that. And then aside from that, we work on banking rewards. So Eunice, just show them a little bit of what is coming out. When you're banking your steps, the first time you bank your steps in a day, you will get the opportunity to pick up some toys and some food. So you have something to look forward to as you're banking your steps, because that's going to coincide with the releasing of the fetch and the feed games. Obviously, if you're going to be able to feed and play fetch with your pet, you're going to need some toys and food to do that with. So moving on to the next video, you can show them the feeding game video, which
Hold on. Did you guys all see the video? Because I couldn't see the video.
Yeah, we saw it.
I saw the video and
Okay,
heard
okay,
the
cool.
music.
So it's just my system. It's just my system then. Okay, great.
Can
Awesome.
can we do
I
the?
just
Oh
need-
wait, did you do the yay? Do the yay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Banking Rewards one's my favorite one with the cheering.
And then yeah, the fish game. So that's
Awesome.
that's what's going on there. So finally, just to wrap it all up together, thanks for all of your time and patience. Last slide, Eunice. One more, two more. Sorry. Yeah, the whole enchilada. So this is like the first time I've been able to really like go into some level of depth to help you understand like how everything is fitting together. Now that you have a glimpse of how battle will work, hopefully you can see the context of all the features. So everything in this game right now has a purpose. Banking your steps is important to get energy to battle, and the food and the toys are used for feeding and fetching so that you can maximize your energy generation for battle performance, and petting enhances your bond. How habitats lead to crystals, which lead to crafting, which leads to augmentation for battle power. How useful genotype crystals are. So, they're not just there for fun, but you actually can use them in battle and for crafting. And how useful habitats are. So you can really appreciate the value of being able to have your own crystals and craft your own items and augments so that you can spec out your pet the way that you want to. And in particular, how important Genesis habitats are, because they give you a crystal of every type. A lot of people are just like, Genesis habitat, why? Now you understand a little more why that's really important, and how valuable Genesis Genopets are, because the augments that they have are separate from the augments that you just can't get those augments any other way. So the special moves you're going to be able to have are very important. And more than anything, ultimately, is why you should walk around and be healthy and happy and have fun. So I hope that gives you a better understanding and a perspective of everything. And speaking of how awesome Genesis habitats and habitats are, that concludes my segment, and I'll leave it to Albert to do some giveaways.
Right. Actually, I'll just talk a little bit for 1 minute about what's coming next. So as you can see, Battle is going to be end of probably around Q2 of next year. That's going to wrap up the phase 2 of our roadmap. What's coming next is banking rewards, feed and fetch, and then finally augmentation to cap off the road to augmentation in Q1 next year. We are working a lot faster these days. With now crafting done, we can shift all our priorities to make the mobile app as great as it is. So Jay, back to you. Let's do some Q&A to wrap up this town hall.
Awesome. So yeah, we will cover some questions and also cover the Genesis Habitat giveaway. I know we're running a little over time, but let's do it. I figured we'd hang out here for an extra few minutes anyway. Questions. A lot of questions came through. I do feel like we covered a lot of it. I think one at the top that I just wanted to touch on that's been happening even before Town Hall is, when is the Legendary Lab closing? We will announce this on the server so it's more clear too, but we'll close the Legendary Lab on the 30th, basically at the end of the year. So any pages out there or people holding on to sets of pages, make sure to use them before then. You cannot use at least today, you cannot use the pages in regular Habitat Lab. I don't know, maybe they'll have some cracked egg type utility one day. But the pages as they stand, their only main use is in the Legendary Lab. Use them up by the 30th. Crafting, you guys have the questions too. Is there anything particular you want to jump into?
Yeah, I actually wanted to address one.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I saw this one pop up several times in the chat, especially since we covered Battle a bit. There's a lot of excitement. There was a question around, what are going to be driving the pet stats that you saw with Chinchin Maru. At the end of the day, the primary driver of stat growth, like where those base stats are coming from, is your pet level. So that's important because it ties like the strength of the pet to the core game loop, which is, at the end of the day, if you want your pet to be badass, you need to walk and you need to level it up. The augments, you can kind of think of them as each augment may have a stat modifier or a bonus effect, or in some cases, possibly with some interesting variants, a negative effect in exchange for a positive effect. those will be the modifiers that modify the base stats. But at the end of the day, if you want your base stats to be strong and robust, you're going to have to continue to level your pet up. And then point on the augments, you can almost consider them like assembling your own trading card deck, your own strategic deck, where you're thinking about what's the best combination of moves, modifiers, and effects that suit my playstyle and my strategy. Just wanted to clarify that. I saw a bunch of questions around pet stats.
Awesome. Jay, do you have any questions that you see that you want to answer? I feel like we answer so many of these. It's like, by the way, guys, good job with the questions. Because I know usually with giveaways, people just like do random questions to fill in the slots. Because I especially remember last year when we did a lot of AMAs. But these questions are really good. Let me see. Let's give 5 minutes.
I wanted to.
And some guy earlier was like, "Should I spam the questions now or should I spam it later?" You should send your questions in now if you really want an answer that we haven't answered yet.
Yeah, if you have a new question that we haven't asked yet, definitely go ahead and ask it again. I'm not concerned there, but I wanted to touch on the idea that more free to play or just free to play mobile game side features and how that sort of drives overall purchase of game items. That's a really important piece of sort of the next phase of the roadmap after we get battle and some of this other stuff out, is being able to, maybe not after battle, but being able to bridge the mobile game experience more into the Web3 side of the experience. We've always imagined this game where people will just play in the mobile game and they can acquire all the things that the Web3 player base is creating through crafting. Of course, the big features that become the unlock for that of that crafting are, one, the feeding and the fetch and the banking rewards and things that Ben was talking about. But of course, two, the crafting of the augments and the power-ups and all the things that you're creating will be acquired by, or can be acquired by, the wider player base who sits in the mobile app, who just wants to upgrade, customize, evolve their pet. So that's where that vision is headed, and kind of how we'll bring the two worlds together. That's ultimately where the marketplace economy comes from, is in the long run, probably only a subset of the player base will play this Web3 crafting creation game, and a larger player base who just loves their pet, wants to battle it, play with it, evolve it, etc., becomes the buy side for the marketplace that we're creating. I hope that touches on that. And I think, reminder too, on the overall roadmap here, we spend a lot of time on battle. It's what everyone wants to hear. But the next immediate thing is banking rewards. You guys have seen that. It's already built. Ben had some really high fidelity videos of feeding and fetch that were shared. Those mini games in the mobile app will be coming next too. And then, of course, this stage kind of laddering up to augmentation. When we finish augmentation, that will be the utility of these items. You will be able to change what your pet looks like, etc. It's probably abundantly clear to most, but I do hear it on the server quite a bit. So just wanted to really double tap on that.
Cool. I have two questions that I've identified that I'm going to answer. One of them is, when will we have crafting or in-app marketplace? That is actually likely going to be after battle. Ben is actively designing those, so you'll probably see some of those previews in our next town hall. Those will be pretty exciting. The main challenges that we have to fix, well, not fix, but like we need to invent a way to seamlessly allow people with no Web3 experience to transact, and then in the back end do all of these things on chain. That, I think, is the holy grail of Web3 gaming, and we're taking that very seriously. The second question that I wanted to answer was that there were a few people asking this, which is, when can you mint your Genopet as an NFT? And that is an interesting question, because I just saw asked from both sides. There's I think two guys who are like, we want to buy cheaper Genopets or like lower tier Genopets and level them up, and there are people who want to mint their baby Genopets. And I would say we don't have a definitive date yet, but it should be after augmentation, or around when augmentation is complete, because then there will be a purpose of doing it. There will we're still internally discussing what the cost would be. It would be likely some kind of tiered cost of minting it to chain depending on the level of your pet. So the higher the level of your pet, the lower it costs to mint to chain. This is to prevent people from just starting free to play accounts and then spamming these NFTs to make them very to inflate the supply a lot. So those are two questions that I have saw. And the market on so this just came in, but Apple's policy on royalties will probably support it, and I've mentioned it on multiple occasions. We're looking to support in-app purchases in which Apple will take 30% cut. However, once you do that, there's a multi-platform policy, which means that you can actually still sell it in other places, and it doesn't have to be at price parity. So this creates a situation where people can choose where they want to buy it, and people who are less Web3 savvy can just buy it on the app for a premium. So those are my answers. Jay, do you see any other questions you want to answer?
Yeah, I got a good one actually good call on the people spamming the chat because I keep seeing good new ones come up. We should have picked
Son
a winner
Goku.
too. Albert. Okay.
No, I was like the changing room. Yeah, Son Goku.
Yes, dude, that's a perfect question. Son Goku, okay. We need some cheering and music and flashing lights. Son Goku, you
play the Banking Awards video again.
Yeah, play the Banking Awards winner video again. Cheers! Yay! Son Goku, you are the first Genesis Habitat winner live in stream for this perfect question for something that we should have been talking about, the changing room. Everyone's been asking, okay, but when I burn an item, it's cosmetic. I don't know what my pet's gonna look like. I'm like scared to use it. Or like, how does that weird looking ear that I thought actually was a wing look on my pet? Just kidding, Ben. It's not weird looking. I love it. But every time I see that legendary augment, I think it's a set of wings. It looks really cool. The changing room. Ben, do you want to talk like for a minute about Pet Studio and what we're planning on doing there? I know I could, but you'll do it way better than me.
Well,
it's an internal tool that we have. Yeah, I'll keep it short. Yeah, the changing room is coming because we actually have an internal. I was surprised that Ben withheld that one. That one is the coolest thing I've ever seen. We have an internal tool that's basically a changing room to see how pets look like across stages with different augments. We'll likely publish that on the web and also in the mobile app. Soon. I
gotta take something for the next state of the game,
Yeah. That's exciting stuff.
If you want to see that, come to the next state.
Come to the next state of the game. Exactly. But maybe Ben will tease it in DNA over the weekend because we missed you on the server, Ben. But yeah, we do have an internal tool. We've had it for a while internally to even design and make all the pets, where you swap out the parts and you change the colors and see what it looks like. It absolutely will be coming to the game. The mobile game may go on the browser too. We're figuring all the pieces out, but yes, that's a big part of customizing and evolving. I think it's gonna have to be called the changing room, Ben. I don't know. I know it's not very like on lore for us, but the changing room is just so what it is. He's definitely denying that one. Okay, cool. That was one winner. Son Goku, contact a mod, find Eunice on the server. We will get your Genesis Habitat. Congratulations, and thank you for that good question. That is totally something that I wasn't thinking about that we should be talking about here. Who else? Did we ask the other winner questions?
There's one question that's been coming up like over and over and over, and I feel like we should just it's about the integration of like, well, there's all this stuff happening on the web and there's all this stuff happening on the app. Just a quick answer to that is that the original vision has always been, and it's going to take us time to get there, but the original vision has always been to do as much as we can within the app. And the reason for us building it on the aspects of it on the web is to make sure that, number one, all the infrastructure needs to be built anyway. And so building it for web, it's a lot easier and quicker to iterate and build that. We build all the piping for it, and then essentially we'll then at that point, when we are ready to do that, to port that over mobile. Crafting and a lot of these things were all originally in the original design meant to happen in the app. And so they will eventually. And so short answer to the question is yes, eventually the plan is to have everything integrated.
Awesome. The second winner is Crimson Ghost. I saw your question on the server last night. It's around the supply of augments and reusing them and demand. We touched on this a little bit. Kevin, please.
Yeah,
Burn back
so
energy, that sort of thing.
yeah, I think there are some mechanics planned as to give players the option of repurposing augments they don't want to use. So some of the ideas that are being sort of specced out and really considered are: can you upgrade existing augments that are of lower quality? Can you potentially combine them or burn them to have some sort of outcome, or exchange them for energy just so you can get something back? It's definitely something we want to consider. I think at the same time, we want to be careful of maintaining the balance, because if everything is rare, then nothing is rare. And so you kind of need to have a baseline where if you got a less than ideal outcome, it is what it is. And that's part of the journey of trying to get the one that you specifically want. Separately, I think Crimson Ghost also asked if the food and toy items from banking rewards are ultimately going to be craftable, or if they're going to be craftable food and toy items released. They're not going to, so there will be craftable food and toy items. Typically, the craftable food and toys will be very special or better quality. They'll be more effective in improving your nutrition or joy scores. That said, the intention of banking rewards is to be able to provide just enough food and toys to have a complete mobile game experience without necessarily having to go and like craft food and toys to keep your pet alive. But the food and toys that will be won through banking rewards will not be on-chain items. There'll be items, eventually we will want to add an option by which we can charge for them to be minted. But ultimately, the banking rewards food and toys are just meant to be banking rewards, first and foremost, but secondly, like a fail-safe floor for being able to nurture your Genopet if all you're doing initially is just playing the mobile game.
Cool, Jay. Let's wrap this up. You're muted, I think. Can't hear anything you're saying, Jay.
Sorry, I'm on mute. We're just scrolling through all the questions flying through here and trying to pick another winner. Eunice, do you have another winner? I'm going to pick one right now at random. Dun, 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 dun. And, okay, I actually found a pretty good one. Because it's the next big release, and I think everybody, wants more details around it, let's touch on banking rewards one more time. Banking rewards is coming very soon. That's the next big mobile release. How does the chance work, and where do the toys and food we're going to get? Is it tied to how much you're walking? How is it can it be gamed? Like, I don't know, Albert or Kevin, one of you want to
Kevin,
that
Kevin
question?
will take, yeah.
That question comes from Galen Brissett in the server. I have your question here. Good one. It's very topical. It'll be our next big release.
Yes, and all of this information will be included in the white paper to be released as we release banking rewards in more detail. But essentially, it's meant to be something you can claim once a day. You need to bank at least a minimum of 1,000 steps in order to claim your banking rewards for that day. We thought that there should at least be a certain requirement, so it's not just like one step and then you're accidentally claiming the banking rewards before you meant to. Once you claim your banking rewards for the day, you will have a random chance to receive three of a limited selection of both food and toy items. And then there's an additional chance to get multiple quantities of the items that you've selected. So that's what that slot machine animation that Ben quickly showed was about. When you have at least 1,000 steps that you've collected for the day and you want to claim that day's banking rewards, you go into the app, you claim your banking rewards, the wheel spins, and from a predetermined short list of available food and toy items, likely not as good as the fully craftable food and items, but still enough to get your pet by, you'll win a random assortment of those, up to 3. And then you may get additional quantities of those as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. I guess that's it, guys. We're going to close it out. Thanks for sticking around a little bit longer. Everyone left here, go guess how many steps I got during the town hall. I was just checking myself. Spam the town hall questions channel with your guesses, and whoever gets the closest number will get a big Gene tip as a thank you and a congrats. And yeah, everyone, peace.